Hello and welcome to Straight Talk Guyana. I'm your host Salim Nasruddin and I'm in Orlando, beautiful Orlando, and my guest of course is somewhere in America too, and we'll bring him on very shortly. This is a show where we break down the issues that affect Guyana's economic development. Our first video was really a hit. We got over 8,000 views in a very short week. I want to thank all of you out there who viewed it, of course, who commented on the video, and who shared it to their friends and family. We hope that this issue of our presentation of Straight Talk Guyana can certainly be shared and be viewed and enjoyed by all of you. Today's issue is one that is critical to our economic development, one that would have established a just, fair and equitable society. I'm speaking, of course, of the Guyana Constitution and the need for its reform. All parties, including the current APNU AFC, campaigned heavily on constitutional reform, but as evident, have abdicated its promise on constitutional reform. And to a large extent, they have entrenched what is so wrong about the Constitution. In a multi-ethnic society like Guyana, with criss-cross, distrust, especially among Indians and Africans, the Constitution has been and still is the main source or cause of Guyana's underdevelopment. So what's wrong with the Constitution? What needs to change? What positive impact would constitutional reform bring about? With me is my guest who will discuss just that. He is a CPA in New York City. He's an adjunct professor at York College and Queensborough Community College. He was candidate at political parties in Guyana, and I'm quite sure he's still very interested in politics in Guyana. He's definitely a patriot. I've known him for quite a while, and he's been around the Guyanese circle and has been very active. And more importantly, he has taken on a lot of initiative in the diaspora to bring attention to Guyana and to find ways of making things better towards economic development. I want to introduce you to Mr. Charles Sugrim, who will be talking to us a bit about the Constitution. So, Charles, tell me a bit, what's wrong with the Constitution?
Hey, Salim, welcome. Thank you so much for having me this session. I know the first session you had was really good, and I hope that you'll continue this program because there's so many things affecting Guyana. The first thing I want to say is that our current constitution was implemented by fraud. That's the first thing. We all know, if you can remember, in 1980 when we had the constitutional referendum, 1978 that is, it was a rigged referendum. If you can remember very clearly, the international community told us that you could walk the streets of Georgetown, you could drive and no one would hit you down because it was so empty. But we know it was rigged. It was forced on the people of Guyana. What bothered me most was that the PPP in opposition, they were so adamant against the Constitution that they were jumping on top of the rooftop saying that they will change this Constitution. Is illegal, it will be changed. We have seen them in office for 23 years and they have changed basically nothing of significance. And that is what we need to talk about today.
Right. So certainly the Constitution came about in not so good ways, but I know we've been running with that Constitution for the past 50 years or so, and well, it's a 1980 Constitution, so it's 30-something years or so. But what specifically would you, as an advocate for constitutional reform, want to see change? And of course, I would imagine there are tons and tons of things to be changed, but let's see if we can focus on a few of them that you believe are critical towards bringing about a fair, just, and equitable society where you have multiple ethnicities who are, at each other.
And that's the first point I want to talk about. One is that Guyana is blessed with a few ethnic groups. And I think our cultures the African culture, the Indian culture, the Amerindian culture are some of the best in the world. So we need to pride ourselves with that culture that we're in. The good news is that there's no ethnic group in Guyana with a majority that will form, if they vote ethnic group, they can elect a party of an ethnic party. So what I'm saying is this: for the government to be elected to office right now, the Constitution says that the party that has the most vote wins the presidency and can form the government. I'm saying we need to change that to say party or parties with 50% or more of the votes cast will then form the government. So it will immediately, that change in the Constitution will immediately work on take away this ethnic voting that we've been accustomed to, where by and large, our African brothers vote for the PNC and APNU, and the Indian brothers vote for PVP and so on. Immediately, that will give us a breathing space, so more like a new breeze in our environment, where even though you want to vote for the ethnic party that you want, which is your right, that will not guarantee that they will be in government alone. They need to form a government with 51% of the votes cast. And I think that immediately will transform our country.
And that certainly makes a lot of sense, where it will kind of force all the ethnicities to work together to ensure that they can manage a country. Now, are you saying in the same breath that one race cannot run Guyana? And because we've seen a checkered history in Guyana where you had African, Indian, African kind of leadership. Are you saying that's fundamentally dysfunctional and the Constitution needs to address that in a very structured manner?
That exactly, Salim. And that's what I'm saying. Right now, the Constitution is kind of cementing that kind of arrangement, where if the Indian vote in a bloc, they think that, and they vote for the PPP, that the PPP will get more votes and will win the presidency. The Africans think the same way, that if they vote in a bloc and vote for the PNC, they will win the presidency. And that fighting within our people, the thing is, we are such a small nation. We should be working together. We should be proud of each other. And for us to fight each other because you want an Indian government or you want an African government, what about a Guyanese government?
Yeah.
We're not talking about Guyanese government. We're talking about Indian and African. You want Indian government? Go to India. You want African government? Go to Africa. I want a Guyanese government made up of all the ethnic groups in Guyana. And we can do that if we change the Constitution to say no party can form a government unless they control 51% of the votes cast.
Yeah. And a Guyanese government is where an African feels comfortable and productive, and he's being listened to. And a Guyanese
Indian and so Amerindian,
Indian and Amerindian and so on. So
exactly.
I think that is certainly something that the lawmakers should consider. I know Prime Minister Nagamutu is in charge of constitutional reform. Not too sure where he's at on the timeline of constitutional reform, but it's somewhere in before the starting line.
Salim, before you go on, one thing I want to say, I'm predicting this. APNU, PNC, and PVP do not want to change that article in the Constitution because it cements ethnic voting and it's really, really detrimental to our country. I hope that the people of Guyana can rise up and say, this must change now.
Yeah. But I listen to you, and fundamentally ethnic voting, which happens around the world, is not necessarily the ultimate evil. What's the ultimate evil is our inability to build a society that allows Indians and African to address their aspirations and their dream as citizens of a country. So
and work together and work
you might not stop Indians from voting PVP or Africans from voting PNC, but what we can certainly do is build a system that would allow them all to share in Guyana's success and of course burdens.
Precisely, and not only work together, Salim, but I like the word equal. We should work to equal. The thing is this, I was in Guyana when, just after APNU won the election, APNU AFC. As you know, I supported AFC in the election. And the thing is, what I was hearing from the community is that the young black boys will come around and say, it's our time now. They will take away things from the Indian boys. And I reported that to the AFC leadership. And I said, they can't do nothing about it. PNC have to address that. But the PNC have not addressed that. When PP won, the Indian boys say, oh, it's we time now. It's not Indian or African time. It should be Guyanese time. And I'm trying to instill that in our people. Okay, as you said, I don't have nothing wrong with you want to vote ethnic way, that's fine. But the thing is, the constitution must change to say that no party can form a government unless they command 51% of the elected, of the officials of the votes cast.
But Charles, yes, I totally agree, and I think that's an excellent idea for consideration. Let's talk about some other things that you may be looking at as part of a reform of the Guyana Constitution. What else would you be looking at?
One other principal thing I wanted to add is let's look at the world around us. Look at Trinidad, for instance, our neighbor next door. They have a president who's head of state, and the president, all the constitutional commission reports to the president. They have a prime minister that is head of government. Mm-hmm. Right now, what we have in Guyana currently, we have a president who's the head of state and the head of government. And we have a lot of dysfunctional thing going on there. So I'm saying the new constitution that we will want to put in place, the president will be the head of state and the prime minister will be the head of government. And the prime minister will have his or her cabinet. And those cabinet, I have a formula where we can select cabinet members. I also want to put in the new constitution the number of ministries that the prime minister is allowed to run with. No government can go into office and change ministries or add ministries unless it's approved by parliament. So I want to give real teeth to parliament, one arm of the government. I want to give real teeth to the executive body headed by the prime minister, and to give real power to the judiciary, which make up the other arm of government. So in terms of the new dispensation, I will really want to see the prime minister being the head of government and the president being the head of state.
And again, thanks for that. So what will be the fundamental difference from what we have right now, where we do have a president and we do have a prime minister? What will be the fundamental difference? Are you saying they'll be sharing the responsibilities? Or are you saying you're transferring responsibilities from one to another?
Well, it has to change. That's the problem. It has to change. What we have now is the president is both, as you said, the head of state and the head of government. So anything wrong, who can you go and report to? If you have separation of duties, right? If the prime minister runs the government with his or her cabinet, everyone accounts to the parliament. And I want to also put in place a parliament that is full-time. And I think we have too many parliamentarians now. I think 50,000 Guyanese, men, women, and children, should have one parliamentarian. Mm-hmm. Whether we go to the PR system still, or we go to the constituent system, I just call a number, 50,000 Guyanese gets a parliamentarian. If that is the case, our parliament will have about 30 members of parliament. Now, the parliamentarian should be full-time, and no parliamentarian should be a minister of government. You either be a minister of government, or you can be a parliamentarian if you want. You can't be both. Oh. So if you want to be a parliamentarian, you run for parliament. If you want to be a minister of the government, you support the prime minister who will be elected, and then the prime minister will nominate names to fill position in his or her government. Those nominations must first be approved by Parliament. So we're giving Parliament strength now, that Parliament will vet the nominee of the Prime Minister to hold ministerial position. And Parliament will call him into question. Parliament will need answers. The Prime Minister, like in England, our alma mater, The Prime Minister goes to Parliament periodically and report on the function of his or her government, what's going on. So we need to dramatically change things in Guyana. And unless we do that, we're going to keep doing what we're doing over and over and over again that never works, and we continue to do it.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from you is that there is like a separation between executive and legislative. Executive being cabinet and legislative being parliament.
Parliamentarian.
So you're advocating that cabinet members or ministers not be in parliament.
They can't be. They can't be because we want parliament to be full time. We want parliament to address every issue in Guyana. If the country have a problem, a complaint, they should go to parliament. The parliament should debate it and deal with it. And then tell the government because parliament will control the budget. They control everything there. The government implements what is approved by parliament.
Yeah, and maybe that's why our ministers are so inefficient. They're spending too much time in parliament trying to make
too much for them. It's in fairness to them, it's too much. They divide their time between administering the ministry and then preparing for parliament. That's too much.
And it is definitely not a fair system for those who are implementing the law to be making the law.
That's the other thing. Parliament should be independent of those who will implement the law. Parliament makes the law, the government as the executive implements the law, and the judiciary will decide on the fairness of the law if you want to go there and question.
Voting. So those are pretty good systems and reforms that the Constitution can use to strengthen it and, of course, bring some fairness to Guyana. We don't have a lot of time. I want you to look at one other thing, and then we can look at closing the show. What other changes would you look at for the Constitution?
Well, I would look at, we should get individuals who think they can run effectively for Parliament. They should be able to run independently of a party. So if it can happen in the PR system, it can happen in constituent system, whichever system we have, individuals must be allowed to run. However, we got to put in place a mechanism for that. That if you want to run independently, either you have X amount of signatures or you'll have to pay a fee to run. If you don't get a certain amount of the votes, your fee is forfeited. Like in some countries, I think Trinidad has that, Barbados. Many countries have that. We don't have it now. But the thing is, we need to give people opportunity. If they can't run within a political system, they must be given the opportunity to run individually. But we cannot put extra work on the commission, by doing that, by everybody will want to run. There must be some limitation what you can do. Maybe a monetary fee you got to put into it, maybe $1 million, I don't know. Or you get 5,000 signatures, something like that. So
but I agree with you. The principle is to have a constitution that allows democracy to kind of spread across the land rather than be hogged up by a few parties.
That's correct. And then the parties control who goes to parliament.
Let me ask you a few questions, quick questions. You can answer very quickly. Should election dates in Guyana be fixed?
Definitely. That's another thing I want to put in the Constitution. Right now, in the Commonwealth countries, the Prime Minister or whoever calls set the date for election. I think Guyana can be a unique opportunity. We're in a unique position to make history around the world. We will put in our Constitution that the election will be held, let's say the first Monday in every July after 5 years, or whatever the case may be. So the thing is, we know when the election will be held. Local government election will be held the second Thursday in every 2 years. I don't know what the number is, but the thing is, we need to put in place exactly. Yeah. People in Guyana, every politician knows, every political party knows election will be held. And the Elections Commission will work towards ensuring that happens.
And that's a transparent system that democracy thrives on. One other quick question, and then I'll let you go. Should national parties like the PNC and PPP and so on contest in local government election? I know it's coming up very soon, sometime in December, but should these big parties again go at the local level and hog up and use up all the oxygen?
Well, I mean, I guess the argument both sides. I don't have a problem with political parties campaigning for local government election because the bottom line is that the people who vote for national elections are also part of communities. So if they want to vote for their party in a local government election, that's fine. But what I do know is that the local government election, the new law is that they have constituent voting. So even though you're within a party, you have to win that seat, which I think is a good thing. So whether the party want to do it or individuals want to do it, for me, that's fine. I don't think I should lock out political parties, but I think everyone's an opportunity to run, but provided there's certain conditions must be in place. For instance, there's certain signatories you need to get, or you pay a fee for it, whatever it is. So people must be given an opportunity to run.
All right, well, Charles, this has been a very stimulating discussion. I learned a lot about the Constitution and what's wrong about it, and now I know why Guyana is probably so underdeveloped. You know, if you don't have the rule of the game defined for everyone, that's equal for everyone, you're certainly going to have a lopsided sort of approach. And so a constitution must speak for everyone equally and give them their share of the national patrimony. So Charles, there might be persons out there that might be want to contact you. What is your email?
Oh, I'm at charles@yahoo.com, and part of advertisement in New York here. We are a CPA firm. We do taxes, we do accounting, we do payroll, we do everything else. You know, if you want some help, send me an email, call me, and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much, Salim, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Sir Graham, and thank you, our viewers. Please share this video, share your comments. Let's talk to our neighbors and friends and voters about the Constitution. You know, if we change the Constitution, I think a lot can change in Guyana. With oil on the horizon, with election in 2020, with the local government election, I think the game, the rules of engagement, the rule of the game of politics in Guyana needs to be changed so that all can feel part of it. Sadly, a significant population in Guyana right now don't feel part of the process. Thank you again, and good night, and look forward. Good evening, good day, good afternoon, whenever you're looking at this. Until next time, we'll be talking about, this is Straight Talk from Florida and New York. Thank you. Good night.